that dissolves the darkness. And so as we welcome the shadow, we become aware of its continuous presence. And what manifests is that it allows us to cultivate different interests and make modifications to some of our routines. And we welcome our Facebook Live community that is now joining us. We appreciate you, we love you, and we thank God for you. Last week, as we were looking at the shadow, we also recognize that denying the shadow limits the opportunity to experience a correction, which can result in an unconscious inner conflict and in a moment of awareness. All of that stuff that has been suppressed within can erupt as real aggression, really true aggression. And I offered the example of my own experience um, of the zodiac sign of my birth being a Leo. I often say to people who know me now that you really don't want to see the other side of the Leo. Um, and so we had a chuckle about that. Um, but what we do realize is that the shadow is that part of us that wants to live within us in whatever form it manifests. Also, last week, I offered us a life work invitation, and that was to name one thing, only one thing, that is within your power to change and change it. And so if you are willing, I invite you to just drop a little note in the chat or in the Facebook comments to share with our other community what the results were of your change. And I'll talk a little bit of about mine as we go along. Our topic for today is preparing the way. And just to offer you a little bit of a background or a context for our theme, the season of light is preparation for a new dawn, for a new beginning, for new hope, for the light to return and warm the earth following the winter solstice. And so we may ask the question, what does Christ consciousness mean? You know, in New Thought and in our Science of Mind language and in some of the other New Thought modalities, we have our own lingo, our own lexicon, if you will, that can be confusing to someone who is not familiar with our language, especially someone who has not taken any of the classes. And I know a friend would share with me that occasionally a family member would join her at our services, and she would say, "You know, Mom, I like the atmosphere. I like the love of the community. I especially like the music. But when it comes to the readings and the talk, I feel that I need a dictionary because I don't understand what you're saying half the time." And so our job now is to try and make this plain, to reduce the lingo down to something that is manageable and understanding. And so I offered this as a segue into a little bit of a description of Christ consciousness. Christ consciousness is not intended to relate solely to the personality of Jesus Christ. It is a combination of Christian language with Eastern religious and philosophical concepts that make it controversial to some when we talk about Christ consciousness. Christ consciousness is a state of consciousness or awareness in which we become aware of our own unity with God or with the divine. It's just that simple. It's the awareness of our unity with the divine, our unity with God, our unity with spirit, however it is that we identify the source of creation. It may also be used as a synonym for deep spiritual bliss. That place that I found myself in this morning during my morning meditation, you know, I into that zone of bliss, and I really didn't want to come back. And so I decided, okay, you've got a few extra minutes, so just hang out here. So it is hanging out in that place of bliss, This is the Christ consciousness. It's the awareness of our unity with the oneness of all life. Christ consciousness also represents the spiritual elevation of Jesus that Jesus achieved during his mortal life and is symbolic of the enlightenment attained by spiritual masters. And the good news is that we each have this opportunity to achieve spiritual enlightenment. And it comes by doing our spiritual work, by doing our spiritual practices, by always remembering the value that we bring to the planet, that we bring into this life experience. To support our spiritual practices that we present in Science of Mind, there are three areas that I would like to share with you that relate to this whole idea of Christ consciousness. And the first one is meditation and group prayer as a spiritual practice. We engage in meditation and group prayer to up-level our consciousness. And there's something about the synergy and the collective consciousness of a group coming together that takes us into that field that Rumi so eloquently described as that place out and beyond ideas of wrongdoing and right doing. He says, there is a field. I will meet you there. And this field is where the soul lies down in the grass. The world is too full to talk about. That's that place of bliss. That's that place of spiritual enlightenment where we go out and beyond any ideas of wrongdoing and right doing. And we join with one another in that field of awareness of the goodness of life, that the world is too full of other things to talk about. When a group of people come together on one accord, one thought, one power is generated. And this is not because the creative principle responds to a number of people rather than to each one of us individually. It is because the combined faith of the group reaches a high level of consciousness. And it is at that point that we shift the vibration of the planet. You know, it reminds me of the story of the 100 monkey. Many of you may be familiar with an experiment that was done with monkeys, where monkeys in one part of the world were washing their sweet potatoes. And through scientific observation and through the consciousness of the expanded universe, this activity caught on with monkeys on the other side of the planet that had no contact with one another. And they too were washing their potatoes. And so as we grow in the consciousness of our awareness and our oneness with the spirit, it becomes like washing collective potatoes. We shift the vibration of the planet. We raise the consciousness to a higher level. Point number two, within creating and cultivating our Christ consciousness, our awareness of the truth of who we are, we develop an energy of faith. There's an additional kind of energy that is even more important, and that is the energy of faith, of affirmative prayer and spiritual meditation. There is no reason to doubt that the field of spiritual consciousness can be created as a chain reaction throughout the world. Meditation and contemplation prepare the way for gratitude. Meditation and contemplation prepare the way for gratitude. We are experiencing this field of spiritual consciousness in our 40-day prosperity plan group meditations on Thursdays. We are experiencing shifts in consciousness, shifts in more of a feeling tone that often doesn't have words to describe it, but we know that there's a shift that is taking place, along with financial blessings that we are realizing and receiving from unknown and unexpected sources. Principle 8 of the 40-day prosperity plan for me is the gratitude vision. And it's based on the promise that is recorded in the Bible in the book of Joel, the second chapter and the 25th verse. And I'm going to read part of that, which reads, "And I will restore for you the years the locusts have eaten." And just a little context and a little background for this. This prophecy and this promise is following an extended period of famine and destruction and fires that were caused by the locust and all other types of swarming insects that are described in the book of Joel. And out of this is the promise of God to restore that which has been destroyed, making all things new. This is an example of God's love. And point number 3, in cultivating our Christ consciousness, we're also called to let go. There's seasons in our life that require letting go. Often Spirit, at least for me, has to use a dramatic method to get my attention. Sometimes I call it that cosmic 2x4 upside the head in order to really get my attention. And that occurs in order for me to recognize that there is something that is requiring release that I have to embrace. It's like that second and third step of the visioning practice. We ask for what is the God's highest vision to be revealed, and then we ask, what am I to embrace in order to accept this vision? And in order to embrace it, what must I release? What must I let go of? What must I make room for to embody this? And so I unsubscribed from an email group that I was no longer actively engaged with. And this message of acknowledgement read, no more calls, no more text, we're breaking up. And sometimes we have to get to that point in our own consciousness of letting go where we say internally to ourselves, okay, no more calls, no more texts, no more Facebook posts, no more social media. We are breaking up. I am done with this experience. And sometimes we have to take that drastic move in order to prepare the way for the Christ consciousness and recognize our oneness with our good. You know, sometimes Spirit downloads things for me. I don't know about anyone else, but it seems like these downloads come at the most inopportune time. You know, like where there's nothing to write on, or I'm in a place where I can't write, or the most recent one, I had just snuggled into bed and gotten into that warm spot. You know, when you find that spot where your feet aren't cold and your arms aren't cold, right in that snuggling spot, Spirit said, follow the light within your heart. Speak to the people on Sunday and tell them to follow the light that is within your heart. And I go, after I've gotten all comfortable, why can you told me this before I got into bed? So I got up because I knew that I would not remember this. So I got up and wrote it down real quick. And so as this continued to percolate and just take on more of an active presence in my life, this is what came to me from that download. Because we each are an individualized expression of Spirit, we have an understanding or a special place in our heart where we experience the light within our own heart, that inner light. Frequently in my personal meditation, the light in my heart shows up in colors. And the predominant colors that show up are yellow, purple, and recently green. Now, each one of these colors has a unique spiritual meaning for me, and I am aware of what is being called forth when these colors appear in my meditation. Following the light within my own heart, my attention was drawn to the Santa Project that this community so lovingly supported. And my thoughts went beyond the financial support and offered me a personal challenge that I now share with you. Rather than thinking of the children that we supported, that we loved in the Santa Project as being underprivileged, underserved, under whatever, all of those understatements that connotate lack. What if? What if we shifted our thoughts and our vision and began to see these children as deserving? They're deserving of the abundance of life. They are deserving to be in the flow of the goodness of life. They're deserving the joy of Christmas. They're deserving the joy of other times in their lives, just as we appreciate the flow of life that we find ourselves in. What if? What if we saw not only these children, but all other beings that are described as living in any type of lack? What if we saw them as deserving? What for you represents the light in your heart? Be open to the revelation of the light in your heart. Listen with the inner ear and allow the stillness to reveal it to you. And while this was percolating and downloading within me, and as I was preparing other parts of this talk, the chant, Hari Om, kept coming to me. Hari Om, Hari Om, just kept coming to me as I was thinking on this. And Hari Om is a famous Sanskrit mantra, which is thought to erase all suffering. It follows the individual speaking it to remove their personal suffering. It allows the individual speaking it to remove their personal suffering and reconnect with the universal consciousness. And the lyrics are, for those of you who may not know it, I know that Amber may be aware of it. The lyrics are, Hari Om, dear Lord, Sat Nam, holy name, when I call on the light within, I go home. I call on the light within. I call on the light within. I call on the light. I call on the light. I call on the light within. Peace on earth, goodwill to all. The time has come for us to stand tall, to call on the light that shines within, to call on the light within. And so as we move into our conclusion, our call to action, as we call on the light within, I invite you, if you're willing, to create a ritual by lighting a candle for preparation to be aware of the Christ consciousness that already exists within you now. Let this candle be the light, that light that we call forth from within, that inner light of love and peace and joy and prosperity and abundance, that inner light that ignites within us the qualities of the Spirit, that allows us to call forth those qualities in each other. Let the light be reflected in the light of the candle. And if it supports you, I offer this affirmation. Peace in my heart outpictures as peace in the world. My peace reflects the Christ consciousness. Peace in my heart outpictures peace in the world. My peace reflects the Christ consciousness. Let us pray together. And as we shift our attitude, as we shift our consciousness, and we shift our awareness into prayer, and as we call forth the light of peace that is within us, I invite us to call forth that light of peace for our country, related to the recent presidential election. Let us call forth that peace that we know is out and beyond any ideas of wrongdoing or right doing. Let us go into that field where we may love and embrace each other, recognizing that each one is a unique expression of the divine. For I know this to be truth. There is one life. There is one power. There is one presence. There is one highest good for all. There is one all-prevailing presence. And just as I am one with this all prevailing presence, this is true for everything that has breath. I'm reminded of the song that says, "Let everything that has breath praise. Let everything that has breath praise." And we know through our study and awareness of the principles of science, the physical sciences, the biological sciences, that everything, every object is moving and vibrating at a level. It condenses into form and appears solid. And yet everything is breathing with the vitality and the vibrancy of that living presence, the source of all that there is. And so I call forth the light from within right now to bring peace into our world, to bring peace into our country, to bring peace into our homes, to bring peace into our individual consciousness, knowing that we're all on this road together. And as we walk this road, we can walk together hand in hand. We can walk together in harmony, recognizing that we may experience and we may expect different outcomes. And yet we can arrive at a place of unity and a place of harmony where we can recognize the uniqueness of each experience. And we can not not only just coexist, but we can be in a place of loving kindness. And we can practice the Mantra Sutra that says, "May all beings be at peace." I call forth that light within, and I lift this prayer and I lift up those prayer requests that are embedded in the hearts and in the thoughts and in the minds of each individual. Those requests that are for right livelihood, those requests that are for right and perfect living space, those requests that are for health and wellness, those requests that are for inner peace, for the transition of loved ones or other transitions that have created a separation, a disconnect, knowing that all of this fades into God. It all fades into God. We know that the darkness needs the light to shine, the stars need the darkness to shine forth their light. And so, in those moments that appear as darkness within our own lives, we know that the inner light, that inner light of spirit, is shining forth brightly and brilliantly, illuminating the way. And the Spirit is saying to us very gently, "Come, follow me, and I will give you rest." And for this and so much more, I am eternally grateful. Releasing this prayer, releasing this treatment, releasing this service, releasing all that there is in this life into the activity and into the action of love and law. And I just allow it to be so. And I invite you to just affirm this with me as we say together, "And so it is." Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Good morning. And now it is time for us to participate and experience the law of circulation. We have an abundance statement. If we could have that slide, please. While we're waiting for our abundance slide to come forward, I invite you to send in your donations by check. Our mailing address is on the screen. You may also donate via our website. That information is on the screen. And you can also text to give at 831 246 9694. And again, I want to express deep, deep gratitude for everyone that is in our Facebook community as well as our local online community for your generosity in supporting of the Santa Project. Um, we exceeded our goal. Thank you, thank you, thank you. We exceeded our goal. And continuing donations that come in will also be gifted out to nonprofits in our local community. So thank you for your graciousness for that. And now we say good morning to our Facebook family, and we invite you to join us again next week, same time, same station, as we continue our December series and we explore the theme, cultivating the light. It's going to be interesting to see where it takes me on, where Spirit takes me on this one, since we talked about the light today. So stay tuned for the divine surprise. And we have our musical inspiration, our gratitude song.
April, I got kicked out of the Zoom. Can you please make me a co-host? Actually, you'll have to make me the host so I can stop our Facebook.
I'll share with you what John Aaron posted in the chat this morning, and this is related to the reading. Christmas is a season of affirmation, Dr. Howard Thurman. Howard Thurman was born in Florida in 1899. And he was an African-American theologian, educator, and civil rights leader. 75 years ago in San Francisco, he started a church with a white minister that is still active today, and is called the Church for the Fellowship of All Peoples. The church that is dedicated to personal empowerment and social transformation through ever deepening relationship with the Spirit of God in all. Thank you, John, for doing that research and offering this to us.